say it was a feeling, and I wasn't going down like in the same way that it seems to be pretty like that's cognitive behavioral therapy really of like recognizing a thought and like really examining it and not going down that trail. Like, can't it be true that that sometimes it's very beneficial to do the exact same thing with a feeling? Like, is it actually wise and is it actually accurate that every feeling needs to be felt?
No, that's not even practical. Doing that,
Yeah.
that's not practical, and it's not productive.
So even if it, so let's say like the thoughts and feelings are very like crossed because they are for most people, I think, because they
Meaning,
feed into each other. Like you're talking about how it's like difficult to discern one from the other.
for me, it is.
Okay, yeah, for you.
I mean, I think it's very possible for people who are not prone to intellectualizing things. Maybe that is an easier distinction.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not suggesting that everyone is as confused about it as I am, but
Okay.
I think it's confusing.
Yeah. So let's say for me, like even if it was crossed, and maybe I think that I'm not like giving, um, giving like attention or credence feels like the right word. Like I'm not buying into them necessarily.
Your thoughts?
My thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say like even if it was crossed and actually it was like a thought feeling hybrid or whatever it is, and I wasn't giving credence to the feeling either. Is that like, does that matter? Is that a negative thing?
Ultimately, yes. It doesn't matter that you didn't do it at 2:00 today.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter that you didn't do it yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
assuming that's true. But ultimately, yeah.
Why? Like that's what I mean about like, right? If you can just like recognize a feeling and be like, yeah, but in a way, like how are they so very different thoughts and feelings?
How are they different?
Yeah, in the way that like you get a feeling and then like it passes.
That's a good question. I mean, I think they're qualitatively different, but maybe that's not particularly relevant here. I think a little bit like they're like apples and oranges.
Mm-hmm.
That they're not dissimilar. They're both fruit.
Yeah.
But they're just also like not the same elements.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that thoughts, I don't think that thoughts don't have energy, but I feel like feelings are energy based occurrences.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of think of the physics like conservation of energy law almost as operating there. And at least from what I have read or whatever, if you resist or avoid a feeling,
Yeah.
that means that the feeling will be prolonged and it intensifies. That is not the case with thoughts, from what I understand. Like if you
So the way
push a feeling away,
yeah.
it builds in
yeah.
in energy and in it builds.
If you push it away, yes.
Whereas
what if like if you push it away, yes. So it's like the trick is like to be with it without adding anything to it or trying to change it at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where I've gotten confused a bit about like expressing your feelings or feeling your feelings is sometimes I think people like add flame to it.
Mm-hmm.
like they don't just let it be. They don't like watch it or allow it.
Well, one of the
They
ways
lean hard in the opposite direction.
one of the ways that happens is by engaging thoughts in service of it.
Yeah.
So by being like, so and so just ignored me, and a feeling comes up, and you're like, you know what? They always fucking ignore me. Remember this, and remember that, and remember like
Right.
that is one way that you can build a thing with thoughts. But if you don't utilize your analytical capabilities in service of the thing, then my understanding is that it does not it does not flame and catch other things on fire.
Yeah.
That was a nonsense sentence, but hopefully you know what I'm saying.
I think I understand. In the past, when I've tried to force a feeling, by that I mean like hearing the advice, oh yeah, like you gotta feel your feelings, and thinking that like I'm a broken robot or something because I don't express myself in the way that other people seem to.
Mhm.
And then like I'll try to lean hard in the opposite direction, which is still like resisting a feeling in a way. Because if you're trying to shape it in any way, you're trying to control it.
Mhm.
And like thinking like, oh, I'm not expressing it like to the fullest extent that it should be expressed is resisting whatever's there. And so like when I was getting a lot of, I don't know if I was getting a lot of it, but I had like a few people be like, you don't express anger. Like it's okay to have healthy anger. And then they like wanted me to like punch a pillow or something. I hated that. It felt so false to me.
Mhm.
And it didn't do anything with my anger at all.
Mhm.
And
How much did you do that? How much punching was involved here?
I remember you
Yes.
heard me punching at one point. I hated it. And I think people can sometimes like use that like, oh, you gotta let it out.
I hated it, though it doesn't actually mean anything.
It didn't make me feel any better.
Would
Like,
it have
at all.
if you have spent 20 years suppressing anger? Would 5 minutes of punching feel better, you think? Because I'm actually not sure that it would. Especially if you are uncomfortable with / unaccustomed to allowing anything to be there. Like, why would expressing it suddenly feel magically good? It's still like a new,
'cause
strange
it-
thing.
No. Because I've had that in the past. Like, because when I've like let it out on someone, like it has felt good in a kind of gross way. It does feel satisfying. And then like punching a pillow just like gave me zero satisfaction.
I guess I don't know what a good indicator satisfaction is of whether or not something is helpful.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if the right thing or the right thing to do always like feels nice.
I guess it's just like what is one even working towards?
Yeah, working toward anything.
It seems like there's a direction there.
Of course, it seems
So like
it,
what's
but
the perfect person?
there is none.
No, but wait.
I don't even want to let that question continue because it is a false premise and a straw man.
But there is a premise that like there are people who their emotional well-being is like, yep, that person knows how to digest their feelings and have them.
People are more or less emotionally healthy. Yes.
Yeah, let's say it's like a fitness, you know,
Mhm.
like that person has an emotional six-pack.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like?
I think it looks like minimal resistance. It looks like minimal forcing.
Mhm.
So greater ease, greater smoothness, um, less like distress,
Mhm.
and an overall feeling of being able to handle things.
Okay.
Like feeling psychologically safe,
Mhm.
psychologically and emotionally safe. Not because you never leave the house, not because you never leave the emotional house.
Yeah. I think overall I feel that actually.
Psychological safety.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I'm that bad. I really mean that. It's like I think I'm okay. Like, and I think more and more I'm like, um, I'm really like realizing that things aren't the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
That like I can make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I can have problems. Things can arise. Like, and I guess it makes sense that I would have like, if I had difficulty with that, I would have difficulty with feelings too
Mm-hmm.
in the past because that would be like, we're not supposed to feel this. Like, that's not supposed to happen. And if I didn't know how to like overcome the problem before then, I definitely didn't know how to overcome the feeling. Um, and more, I'm just like, oh, like none of this is an indication that I'm screwing up
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm not like being a human being the right way.
Correct.
It's just like yeah, like life keeps going, and then you adjust. You like either make up for it, or you fix it, or you surmount it,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know. I was thinking like this just earlier when I was like washing dishes. I was like, oh, I can't believe like I was so fixed on like being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I like completely had the wrong idea about what a person is. I
Mm-hmm.
think I had no idea what was actually normal.
Mm-hmm.
And my standards were incredibly off. And I remember people trying to talk to me about standards, and I was like, don't you dare take away my standards.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the best thing about me. The fact that I am not satisfied with anything. That's funny. Um, and that definitely I'm not satisfied with myself. That like don't you dare take that away from me. My like unhappiness with myself is a great thing because I'm not allowing myself to settle. Like I'm not allowing myself to be mediocre. Like I know when I screw up, I know when I'm bad, and I know all the things that are terrible about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I really thought that was an asset, and I like clung to it hard. And now I'm like, it's just I don't know that I didn't realize how psychologically unwell that was. Like how out of touch that actually was. I'm not gonna use the word crazy, but like, yeah, that's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Fixed.
Sorry. Not fixed. Like there is no fixed. How are you?
2:30 p.m. So I literally it was like one of those days where I was like, I can just go sleep like from now.
Okay.
I've earned my right to call this a day.
Yeah, definitely. When did you start?
11:45.
Great.
Yeah. So but then I was like fairly unproductive after that, and I still managed to feel guilty, even though I was like free pass all day, and then I was like, what did I do with the day?
What?
Yeah. Guilty.
What did you do with the day?
Well, like, what did I actually do?
Yeah. 'Cause sometimes I think you're
I wrote a
so
bit of a
busy.
song. A bit, but again, like it's lyrics and shit. Whatever. I'm fine.
Okay, but you felt guilty.
I did that. I talked to my family like probably too much today. I think that's it.
Okay.
I put in an Amazon Fresh order.
Ooh.
I fucking think that's it.
Okay.
I did sign up for a fitness challenge.
Yeah, what's the challenge?
Starts tomorrow.
Oh,
I don't know. It's this lady whose thing
Sorry.
I've done before, but
you should not. It should arrive by Tuesday. I'm really sorry. And by the way, it hasn't been like broken for a while, and I'm like, oh, by the way, I broke it yesterday.
okay.
Okay. My thighs are just too powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the challenge?
I mean, it's just like a 6-week thing. The question with all of these things is never like, am I going to do the workouts? It's always like, am I going to do the eating?
Oh, it's a diet as well.
It's everything.
Mm.
And like, I can't be bothered to track my macros. I just can't. It's so like calorie counting.
What's the point? That's really what it's doing.
What?
This is just exercising your brain.
Ugh.
I don't even fully know what that means, counting your macros.
It means that that your appropriate nutrition,
Mhm.
it's not as much about whether you're over or under. The stress is more on the balance of things. So depending on your body type and your age and your level of activity and your this, that, and the other,
Mhm.
you you have like a ratio, like the fucking, and you have to get them. So like, I don't know what was supposed to be
I
explained.
know you're like, I literally just said I can't. It's
I
too many
can't.
calories.
I can't. It's that you have to know how much protein you got
Right.
in a day, and you have to make sure you get it. So like, if that means you haven't gotten it somehow, you need to eat more, even if you're not hungry. Like it's
It's amazing how many of those like bulking. Usually, I see a lot of guys doing that kind of thing.
What?
They like do a program and they're adding muscle, and then they have to eat like 4,000 calories a day.
Yeah, women do it too. It's not 4,000 a day, but yeah, like that's the only way you get a better butt.
Right. Right. Okay.
In part because you don't want to be in calorie deficit.
Right. Because you can't build anything if you're
Right.
in deficit.
So it just has to be like an orchestrated increase that takes a few things into account, like how your body's supposed to be.
Did you?
What?
What's your body supposed to get? Did you already calculate that?
No. They calculate it and they send it to you. But then the way it comes is like it's like 26 grams of this, something of that, like carbohydrates, protein, What's the other one? Fat.
Fat.
I'm much more into what I call instinctive eating,
Uh-huh.
which is like I can't just like consume the thing that I'm supposed to be consuming.
You don't like being told what to eat, basically.
Yeah, because it changes depending like what I want to eat changes depending on like the cues in my system.
Right.
So when I want fruit, I feel like it's usually because I'm like dehydrated. I don't know. There's like I have certain like modes. So when you were saying that thing about, you know, how when you think you want something and then you realize it's not at all, that's very rare because I feel like I have a pretty decent idea of what fits into these different lanes. So there are times when I want something like water based. It's weird, but I think
Yeah.
there's a
Like
whole category.
refreshing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which includes like raw vegetables. Not all raw vegetables, but a lot.
Yeah.
So like, there's like the water lane, there's the carb lane, and between those, like I can't. If I want water, I'm never going to be happy with carbs, and if I want carbs, I'm never going to be happy with the water things.
Mm.
And basically, this is like you do the same amount of carbs every day, the same amount of water, like the same amount of all of the things, consistently with no regard to what you want to do.
Well, like, I really want to understand cravings more.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to know what the hell is happening. Like, do our bodies know what is missing, and they're telling us directly?
Yes, but we also mess them up.
Yeah, exactly. And then it also seems to me like your body is probably trying to maintain, right? Or maybe I'm wrong.
Maintain.
But like your body doesn't know like we're gaining muscle, so it's not going to crave those things.
I think I follow. I'm not sure if I follow.
Like if you're trying to gain muscle, you actually like can't go off your body's cue system because
it's accustomed to what it's. I remember, like, I used to never eat breakfast after I stopped living at home, and then, like a couple of years after college, I had a trainer or whatever who was like, "You have to eat breakfast," and I was like, "Oh no, I can't. Like, it won't go down.
Yeah,
it's really not what. Like, it's closed.
Yeah.
And I basically had to force myself to eat one boiled egg."
Oh,
in the morning.
That's a hard thing to get down if you had to pick something.
Well, the point is that she wasn't going to allow me to eat the toast.
Right. Okay.
There's no point. And after a while, I like badly wanted and needed it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, your body gets accustomed to whatever you do into it as well.
Yeah, what you were telling me about the pleasure trap, did you finish that, by the way?
I haven't, because I've gotten diverted by this thing.
About like how quickly your body's like, sugar, 3 o'clock.
I know.
Sugar now.
I don't even know if that was in the pleasure trap.
Oh, what was that from?
My life.
Because I know exactly what that is. It's like all you have to do is have done it yesterday, and now it's like, okay, this is the habit now.
Yeah. All those like gut-based diets and things like that are all, I guess, based on trying to neutralize all of these like unhealthy. I read a thing somewhere, and I don't know if this is true, but there's something really funny and true about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, if you don't want a salad, you're not hungry. If you don't want a salad or water, you're not actually hungry.
Oh.
The point being, like, if you're not willing to eat something, like, that's
like
good
if
for
you're
you.
not willing to like, eat anything.
Or not anything that's nutritious, then that's not real hunger. If you want junk, that's not actual hunger.
What is it?
It's like that toxic hunger.
Yeah. Right.
The thing that gets created by eating processed carbs and sugar and what are the Oreos?
Oh.
Yeah. So if you don't want something that's good for you, that means that's not actual hunger. That's addiction. That's like a craving.
See, I feel like a lot of people need to understand this more because I've also heard that if you're craving sugar, which now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, if you're craving sugar, it means that you're lacking something nutritionally.
That sounds like bullshit.
So what you're probably lacking is like protein, and
Okay.
you should eat protein,
That's really confusing.
right? Which obviously,
Even based on my system, it's really confusing.
makes you like completely doubt your signals. You're like, I'm craving sugar. I'm probably lacking something, but I can't listen to what I want. So what do I want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons that apples and almond butter are my favorite thing, because it's like it's got a lot of water in it, but it's also like the almond butter makes it like
It's got carbs.
protein and fat.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit like, it's perfect. You do love fats. I really only like nuts. No, I like avocados too, but I'm not like insane about them. Olives, potato leaf, what are other fats? I'm not counting the like shitty fats because then it starts to be like a drug.
I used to put MCT oil in my coffee
Mhm.
every morning.
Mhm.
I didn't stop doing that.
Why did you? It's all been downhill from there.
I know,
From that day
obviously.
that you stopped.
Ugh. Ugh.
You know that place that I was obsessed with ordering from, the salt brew, the sea salt cold brew,
Yeah.
that I was obsessed for 3 days, and then I was like, no. They have like brain coffee, which I really wanted because during that whole brain coffee thing, I was like, I felt really left out.
Yeah, because most of it's sugar.
And
I
butter.
mean, butter, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, I've got a brain. What about my brain?
Yeah. What was in their brain coffee?
I think it's vegan butter, maybe. I don't know. I didn't order it, obviously, but
I think it's just the fat. I forgot the science of this. I actually remember looking at this. Oh,
as we all
Dave
know.
Asprey, Bulletproof Coffee. I think he was the one who introduced it to the West.
I don't know who this guy is, but I feel like we talk about him a lot. Dave Asprey.
Dave Asprey.
Bulletproof Coffee.
He's one of those I don't what do you call those people who are like bioengineering themselves?
Biohackers.
Yes, that's what he is. And he's tried every oh my god. His book is so insane. I think I told you about this too. Like there's a whole chapter on sex.
No.
I never told you this?
I don't think so.
Okay, so there's a whole chapter on sex because he's biohacked every aspect of his life, including sex. And he's discovered, like, apparently there's a lot of wisdom. There's, like, monks that adhere to this, and a lot of, I don't know, people claim that for men, if they're having sex consistently, they're actually depleting their energy.
Mhm.
And they're like focus. Yeah.
That's a foundation of like, that's one of the foundations of yoga.
Yeah. I'm sure I told you about this. So he like tried different things. There's like different, there's different kind of like beliefs or, I don't know, it seemed to be like a Zen, there was like a Zen story, like a Zen teaching that like ideally you go a month without sex.
Okay.
And so he tried that for a while. But it also has to do with like you can have sex but not ejaculate. Like ejaculating is really the thing that you don't want to be doing as a man. And he found like his sweet spot is like 6 days. He's like, that's the best thing. So he has like, he gets to ejaculate like on a regimen.
I can't think of anything that I want to know less than how often Dave Asprey ejaculates. I don't even know who this person is. So this is based on this is based on nothing about him, with the exception of his bulletproof biohacking lifestyle. That's like, it's to me, that's a little bit like, it's getting in the territory of like 6 plus 12 plus lose plus this times that
Yeah.
equals.
Yeah. I mean, the way that he sees it is he's like, you're leaving money on the table. Like, if you're not doing all these things to optimize your performance and your health and you're leaving money on the table.
Okay. And that's the worst thing you can do
But
in the
that's
world is
kind
leave
of like
money on
a
the table.
crazy mindset to be having, because that's like a seize the day mindset, but like in terms of everything.
Also, I
So
think
if
it's
you're
based
not
on a really
popping
faulty...
a million nootropics a day, you're leaving money on the table.
Yeah, it's insane. Also, it's based on a false premise that he is actually right about all of this stuff, which means that he not only believes so strongly in his, like, the fact that he thinks he knows what the best way to do everything is insane. That's crazy. That's crazy. How could you people who are like, I figured it out. Especially if it's like, oh, sex, I got one for that. And then you want this? Put butter in your coffee.
I think he's constantly tweaking it, though. I don't know if
I
he's
don't
ever-
care. He's one person.
Yeah. He just seems like he's...
Like, the
he's his
Buddha
own
couldn't do that.
guinea pig. What do you mean?
Like, no one can do that. Figure out what is, like, optimum for themselves in everything, unless they're literally in a different place, psychologically. Which maybe he is. But that's, like, a little bit nutty.
Oh, yeah. It also just sounds like so time consuming.
It does. I'm amazed that he has any time left over to seize
Exactly.
after all of this planning on seizing.
It's like those people that's like, my morning routine. And it's, which he has, obviously. But it's like, I wake up at exactly this time. And then I do some Kundalini breaths. And then I meditate for 20 minutes. And then I go walking in the woods, bare chested, trying to get my vitamin D. And then I do,
In the woods?
I don't know, I'm just adding the woods because it's like forest walking.
Okay.
And then I do an hour of yoga. And then I eat a smoothie with this. And then I journal. And like, you can just keep piling these things on. I don't know.
Great. I'm glad it's working for him.
It is, actually.
I don't know if it is. I'm not inside his head.
No, but I more mean it is, whether it's working for him or not, it's working for him because he's, firstly, I guess I know who he is. And the reason why I know who he is because he does this.
Right, but if that's your goal to like get money off the table, then great, good job.
Yeah, like he's more well known not for how healthy he is, but for all the things that he does to be healthy. You know?
Yeah. Like, where are the products?
Like, that's the weird like crossover
Where's the
thing.
product?
His brand is that. So the
Yeah.
product is the thing.
Yeah, that's like, wow! I want to punch this guy.
You probably would.
I fucking want to punch this guy. I need to look up what he even
He's
looks like.
constantly wearing blue blockers too.
I have to look him up.
Like in a bunch of interviews, he's wearing.
Are you serious? In interviews, he's
Yeah.
wearing blue blockers?
Yeah, and I'm like, the light's not gonna get you here. I mean, maybe it will. I think you're okay.
Oh my god. He fully looks like an insane person. The fact that people are listening to this person is insane.
He
Look at
doesn't
this
look
guy.
well here.
No, he doesn't look
He
well.
doesn't look well. It's like this thing with like, you're in charge of your biology. He does not look well.
He looks white and action.
It really does.
Also, like this whole like why I'll live to be 180 years old. Maybe you should shut up until you're 180.
Yeah, you can know. Imagine if you dedicate your life to that. No, I don't want to say the rest of the sentence.
This guy's a dork.
Oh, definitely.
Who wears blue blockers all the time? Oh my god. Okay.
Want to be a game changer?
I don't know.
Bulletproof Radio with Dave Asprey. Yeah. Doesn't work for women though, by the way.
What doesn't?
The 6-day. No
The
sex.
ejaculation thing?
Yeah. Apparently women are better on regular sex.
According to Dave Asprey?
How convenient for him. Or not? I can't tell.
I can neither tell nor care.
I'll change the topic. Okay.
I'm
We're not talking about
over
this. We're not talking
Dave
about it.
Asprey.
Goodbye. We're not talking about it anymore. What would you like to talk about?
Dave Asprey.
Okay.
Where's that music coming from?
Okay.
Cool. Now that we've sorted that.
Yeah.
What did we read?
We read.
Oh, I do want to tell you one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that I'm now like all up in the Purito like line.
Yeah. What is that?
I ordered like
What would you get?
I ordered the like Sika pads,
Ooh.
the toner pads,
Ooh. Okay.
because some of them are like, oh, this exfoliates, so I figured I could like alternate it in with something else. And then I got the sleeping pack, which looks like that green tube, like the recovery tube, but it's purple or something. They have like the same tube, but like 3 or 4 different kinds. I don't know if you remember this, but
I remember there was one I wanted that was like deep sea moisturizer.
Yeah.
And I wanted that, but I couldn't find it.
that
anywhere.
seemed. Oh, it's on Amazon.
Oh, at the time it was on YesStyle.
That seems like it's for some condition, and I was like, wait, is this for like itchiness and red? I don't know. It seemed like it was for more specific, and that's the only reason I didn't get that one.
Yeah, I think it's more for like very dry skin, so maybe you don't.
Also,
need that
that's
anymore.
the other reason.
Yeah. Why did I want it? I don't know. Because I was convinced that I have dry skin.
Because you're like really into having dry skin.
I'm like, my skin's so dry.
Dry skin is one of those things that enough people talk about it, and you're like, I think I have it.
Yeah, totally.
Because people are like, oh, my skin feels so hydrated for the first time in my life. And you're like, is my skin dry? And I just don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got both of those.
That's exciting.
It doesn't help that they're not expensive. I mean, it does help, but.
Oh no, and I'm pretty sure Fairly Green and cruelty free.
Burrito.
Yeah, it's a good brand. And their sunscreen is the best. It's the best.
I really want spray sunscreen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For whatever reason, when I get to the like moisturizer thing, I'm like, I don't want to put it anymore.
Oh.
I just want to be like, psh, and I just don't want to be like layer. It's too many things to layer.
So for some reason, I don't know if this is the thing, but their sunscreen has Sika in it. Which
I'm
is
gonna
really-
like overdose on Sika in about 2
No,
weeks.
you can't. No, which is really great for breakouts.
We're breaking out.
Yeah, or not breaking out. So I just think that's ingenious to put it in sunscreen because for me and for a lot of people, I think like sunscreen can cause breakouts.
Yes, skin is a tangent that we go on.
Yeah.
It's not a tangent. It's actually, we've buried the lead.
It's a life. Okay?
It's a lifestyle. It's a way of life. It's a way of lifestyle.
Skin. I don't know if it's doing any good.
What do you mean?
Like, do you ever think about that? Like, so your mom has amazing skin, right?
Yeah. Do you think that I look any different than when you moved in?
I can't tell.
Yeah, that's a problem.
But I don't know because it's like that kind of thing of you just get so used to looking at a face that you're like that you don't see the slight day by day adjustment.
I know, but I've looked at pictures.
And you look the same.
Sorry, what were you saying? My
I
mother
don't know.
does have good skin.
Yeah, I was kind of proving that. I was like, yeah, so your mom has amazing skin. Does she do anything? It's cocoa. What does she do?
No, she washes her face with the soap that she puts on her body. And I think she does like I got the Trader Joe's thing from her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Then watch your mom have like a secret skincare.
That's so like her.
Wouldn't she do that? Yeah.
That is so like her to have a whole secret skincare ritual that she doesn't tell me.
Yeah.
No, because have you seen my grandmother?
Not recently.
She definitely does not have a skincare ritual, and she looks comedically young.
I use Dawn dish soap.
That's really funny.
Yeah, that's like a deep. That's a deep
That's a
double cleanse.
Deep clean. That takes oil out of your like feet. So it was my grandmother's. It's not a very clear picture, but it's my grandmother's like 96th birthday or something.
Oh, she was good.
Look at her face.
Yeah.
96.
Oh, my grandmother looked like.
She looks like a completely regular person
Regular
somewhere
person.
in her life.
I mean, granted, it's like it's a little blurry, but
I know, I
yeah,
can't find a
she
clip, but
looks
that's
like
basically
she
what-
could be in her 60s. That's crazy.
So weird. I took a screenshot of this just so that I wouldn't have to watch the whole thing just for that little squat. Maybe I'll find another picture of my grandmother later. Oh. No, there's one. And this is just like a few days, a couple of weeks before that. Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. Somebody should do something about her eyebrows and mustache. But
That's nice.
I mean, for her skin though, like it's a joke.
Yeah.
This face is like a part of her face is like mine.
I was just thinking, you kind of look like her.
I meant now.
What?
Like that's basically
Oh.
what my face looks like.
Yeah.
God damn it! My grandmother has the same number of wrinkles as me. She's 96.
No, she obviously has more.
Where?
No, like that's obviously a bit deeper. And she's got some Forehead wrinkles.
That I don't think is
probably around her
wrinkles.
eyes.
All right.
Maybe not. Around her eyes, yeah. Oh, little mustache. Why do women get mustaches as they age?
Hormones.
Why do they get hormones as they age?
They don't get hormones as they age. Their hormones change.
Why? Why has it got to be like that? Why can't we just make babies forever?
Not clear.
You think it's for our own good? Like they're
I
like,
do.
you would die.
I
So
do.
no. No more babies for you.
I do. You also can't make babies when you're 6.
Because you would die.
Because you're still growing.
And yeah, you might die. If you have to give all your resources to another thing.
Yeah, I don't think you can. You'd have to eat like 4,000 calories. You'd have to be on like a protein. You'd have to be keto.
I wonder who the oldest person to ever give birth.
What a creepy thing to find out.
I want to know who was the oldest person.
I bet you in their 60s. What do you think?
60s, you think? Yeah, like I'm gonna say 63.
That seems crazy.
That is.
But we're
is
talking about
crazy.
world records here.
No.
Stop.
No. I don't know if I believe this. Is USA Today reputable? 74-year-old.
Give birth to what?
Twins.
They
But I don't know if I believe this. It says reportedly gave birth to twins. What does that mean? Do they think oh, she's faking?
We need to go to the Guinness book or something. Something with a stringent vetting process.
Jesus Christ. I mean, there's a lot of articles about this 74-year-old.
Can you believe people think they're running out of time?
You're fine.
You're fine. I wonder what her skincare is like. No, I wonder what her life choices were like.
I wonder what your skincare. Oh.
Because those things are related, you know.
I'm just thinking about like when you find out you're pregnant and you're 73 years old. And you're like, great. I'll set up a nursery. Like, and you just go along with it? That's terrifying to me.
What part of it is
At
terrifying?
74, you don't want to deal with a baby? You're like, I can barely feed myself. I apparently have an opinion about what I'll be like when I'm 74, where it's like, we're done. Goodbye.
I mean, I think we are done with having kids.
Yeah, and then you think about like, am I going to be there for them?
You can't. There's nothing to think about. You're not. You're definitively not going to be there. You need to come up with, godparents or what do you call it?
Yeah, that's a different situation too. And now some godparents, it's like, this is definitely happening.
Do you want to be my child's godson?
No.
I haven't been to church in a while.
Oh, 74. Okay, good for you.
I mean, I would say it would take you a really long time to realize you were pregnant, but maybe not if you're still getting your period.
Right. I didn't even think of that. Right, she was obviously still getting her period.
Yes.
She just skipped menopause. Is that what she did? She's just like, no, thank you.
No, she had.
Unselect.
No, you can't skip menopause and go to after it.
At what point is she getting menopause?
Later. Yeah, because it's not like, oh, once you're done with menopause, you go back to being able to have kids.
You don't think it's just like wisdom teeth? Like sometimes you need them removed, sometimes you don't.
Do I think menopause is like that? Sometimes you need menopause?
Yeah. For some. Suits some.
Yeah, I think menopause depends on how much room you've got in your mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Ah! That would be really stressful to have a baby.
What if you break yourself?
Whatever, I'm going to be running marathons when I'm 74, so I'd be like, let's do this! I'd be so popped up on steroids. What did we read yesterday?
We read
Yes, the plant. The plant's fine, okay? The plant is just fine.
it's still,
What?
it's still there. I guess that's how I'm. Look,
Hi, yo.
as long as it has some green fronds.
On Facebook Marketplace today, I saw some indoor plants for sale for cheap, and I wrote to the guy being like, hey, are these still available? And then I was like, yeah. You amoral piece of crap. Don't get more indoor plants so you can murder them. I felt really
Or
guilty.
you just replace them.
You know what? Home Depot takes literally anything back. So if I was like, this used to be a plant that I got here, they'll be like, oh, okay, and we'll process a return. We'll give you a new one.
You
Yeah.
have to show them receipt.
I don't even know that you do. Yep, Home Depot. We could probably take this one in and be like, this is defective. This plant. This plant doesn't know how to live.
I kind of want to do that. We got a bad one.
Yeah.
We don't know why.
It's like it has no survival
It's
instinct.
supposed to stay green, right?
I think we should do that.
I kind of think we should.
And then we'll be like,
Suddenly it's just, there's like
it's just plants.
banana leaves behind us, you know,
Yeah.
like it's just covered.
I logged into a Zoom call with my extended family a few weeks ago, and Aditi was sitting on a beach. I was like, where are you? She was like, on the beach. It was like one of those stupid
They're
backgrounds.
so bad.
Oh, it was good. And then Ishan, who was with my mother, was like watching over my mother's shoulder, and then was like, "Auntie, go to mama. Auntie, go to the beach." So he went to a different part of the house to find mama because she was on the beach.
Yeah.
That's cute. Yeah, Auntie, go to the beach.
I'm gonna go to the beach.
It's like, Dongle, that's not a beach.
Was he disappointed when he got there? He said, where's the...
I think he'd forgotten about it by the
Oh.
time he got there.
Where's the beach? Yesterday we read.
Oh my god, he's so funny. He realized that I thought this thing was really funny. He won't stop doing it. You know how he sings happy birthday? So today he was like, happy birthday to Mother's Day. Because I think Narish was trying to get him to sing happy Mother's Day to Mama in the same melody as happy birthday,
Yeah.
which is his favorite song. And the furthest he could get towards it was happy birthday to Mother's Day, Mama. And he sang that whole thing, but he realized that on the third line, when it goes up, he now goes, happy birthday! And it's super funny. Happy birthday! It's really funny. He's gonna be hilarious.
There he is.
Yeah, there's like no doubt in my mind.
I think so.
Happy birthday And then how does he know how to do stuff? Because he also is like, happy, be, day, do, you. What is he? What are you doing? How does he know that? Like spacing it out, like how does he even know that's a thing? I don't know what I'm asking.
But maybe he thinks it's funny.
I know, but how does he know it is?
He doesn't.
He's just doing it because he likes it.
Yeah, because his sense of humor. This is what I was wondering. Like, are you born with a sense of humor? Like, are you born with like things being funny? And babies laugh. So is he just like he thinks it's funny, and he's doing it, and then obviously he's getting reinforcement.
That for sure. I just don't understand like where the impetus even comes from. Yeah, like how does he? And he now ends every song being like, do. He slows down at the end and draws out all of the notes.
Mm.
And it's like, so he'll be like, but day to you. Like, how does he know? Okay, I'm done. What are we talking about? What did we talk about? What are we talking about? What did we talk about?
We did wait. We were with Pierre.
Yeah.
We were with Pierre. He left the house.
Were we ever?
And he's like, I'm gonna do it. Couldn't wear his pistol. I forget why, because it didn't go with his outfit.
It's too bulky.
Yes. So he grabbed a dagger instead. He's like, yes, a dagger will do fine.
Even
though some other guy tried to kill Napoleon with a dagger and it didn't work out well.
And he decided the only reason it didn't work out well was because he tried the dagger.
Yeah. He had paid attention to this news story. I don't know what it was. So we left the house, and then there was this family, and they were very upset because their house had burned down and they had lost their daughter. And so he's like, oh, yeah, I'll go get the daughter. And then he got the daughter.
Rescued her from the burning house.
Yeah. And then he got arrested. That's pretty much it.
He got arrested because he was trying to prevent some French soldier from attacking and robbing
this
lady.
This pretty lady.
This pretty lady.
Yeah. Right.
And he was like, take me to your leader. Which they're not going to do. He's going to go to jail. And they're like, is this a dagger that I see before me? And he's like, yes.
Oui.
He's like, oui.
But he did lie.
Did he?
Yeah.
What did he lie about?
He said, they were like, who's this child? Because they're trying to arrest him and he still can't.
Oh, right. That's
he's
the
like,
one thing he lied about.
It's my daughter. And then he felt very good about the lie.
Because he's been trying to tell useful, productive lies this whole time, and he can't. He just vomits the truth instantly. And then someone was like, who's that girl? And he was like, only my daughter. And it was like, she's not my daughter. But like, feels thrilled about it.
Yeah.
He's great. What a great guy.
He really is.
Pierre's a great guy.
I just got that.
Cool. At least you did.
At least. I was slow to get there.
That's okay. No one watching's ever going to get there. So we came to the end of the book.
Yeah, we did.
The book of
11.
The book. Dons. The book of 11.
Yeah.
That was in French, guys. I speak a little bit of French.
Yeah, which means we're at book 12. Which is...
We're hurtling towards the end. And we still haven't done the Instagram.
Yeah. Yes. I realized that. It didn't work out that well last time.
Yeah, because, yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, my audio was like really bad.
What do you mean your audio?
I don't know what yours was like.
I'm sure they were the same.
Okay. I'm not sure. Mine was like, was it kind of like warped and tinny sounding?
It was definitely crazy sounding.
Yeah.
But we came up with a strategy for that.
I'm saying what we actually did with the strategy.
No, we never tried the strategy with the Bluetooth.
What?
Yeah, something didn't work about it.
Well, this didn't work.
I know, now I'm trying to remember. Because I remember being like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
So what the hell were we going to figure out?
I thought we had figured it out. We were like, success! And then I watched it. I'm not sure. But I remember watching it and being like, oh shit, the audio kind of is terrible.
I don't even know how to fix it. Damn.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. Okay.
Guess that's never happening.
Unless like we wanted to like switch off. Yeah. Like just record on one person's Instagram.
Yeah, which we can do. Like we could even switch mid thing if we have to log out in any case, or half an hour or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll figure it out. See, this is probably the same tone in which I said we'll figure it out last time, and then we didn't. Okay, this time it's gonna happen. Book 12.
Book 12, chapter 1.
1812.
In Petersburg at that time, a complicated struggle was being carried on with greater heat than ever in the highest circles between the parties of Rumyantsev, the French, Maria Fedorovna, the Tsarevich, and others, drowned as usual by the buzzing of the court drones. But the calm, luxurious life of Petersburg, concerned only about phantoms and reflections of real life, went on in its old way and made it hard, except by a great effort, to realize the danger and the difficult position of the Russian people. There were the same receptions and balls, the same French theater, the same court interests and service interests and intrigues as usual. Only in the very highest circles were attempts made to keep in mind the difficulties of the actual position. Stories were whispered of how differently the two empresses behaved in these difficult circumstances. The Empress Maria, concerned for the welfare of the charitable and educational institutions under her patronage, had given directions that they should all be removed to Kazan, and the things belonging to these institutions had already been packed up. The Empress Elizabeth, however, when asked what instructions she would be pleased to give with her characteristic Russian patriotism, had replied that she could give no directions about state institutions, for that was the affair of the sovereign, but as far as she personally was concerned, she would be the last to quit Petersburg.
There's two empresses?
Apparently. Yeah.
How am I just realizing that?
I don't think we've ever talked about them.
Well, we've talked about the emperors.
Emperor. Right?
Well, now I'm doubting that suddenly. Okay. So he just has multiple wives?
Oh, do you think they're wives or sisters?
I have no idea. Great. At Anna Pavlovna's on the 26th of August, the very day of the Battle of Borodino, there was a soiree. the chief feature of which was to be the reading of a letter from his lordship the bishop when sending the emperor an icon of the venerable Sergius. It was regarded as a model of ecclesiastical patriotic eloquence. Prince Vasily himself, famed for his elocution, was to read it. He used to read at the empress's. The art of his reading was supposed to lie in rolling out the words quite independently of their meaning, in a loud and sing-song voice, alternating between a despairing wail and a tender murmur, so that the wail felt quite at random on one word and the murmur on another. This reading, this is funny. In case you weren't listening.
I wasn't listening. But yeah, it was funny. There was a murmur.
That's hardly the gist of it. This reading, as was always the case at Anna Pavlovna's soirees, had a political significance. That evening, she expected several important personages who had to be made ashamed of their visits to the French theatre and aroused to a patriotic temper. A good many people had already arrived, but Anna Pavlovna, not yet seeing all those whom she wanted in her drawing room, did not let the reading begin, but wound up the springs of a general conversation.
The news of the day in Petersburg was the illness of Countess Bezhukova. She had fallen ill unexpectedly a few days previously, had missed several gatherings of which she was usually ornament, and was said to be receiving no one, and instead of the celebrated Petersburg doctors who usually attended her, had entrusted herself to some Italian doctor who was treating her in some new and unusual way.
Oh my. They all knew very well that the enchanting countess's illness arose from an inconvenience resulting from marrying two husbands at the same time, and that the Italian's cure consisted in removing such inconvenience. But in Anna Pavlovna's presence, no one dared to think of this or even appear to know it.
I'm just gonna jump in. It looks like Empress Maria is Alexander's wife, and Empress Elizabeth is the Empress of Austria.
That makes a lot of sense.
Much more sense. They say the poor countess is very ill. The doctor says it is angina pectoris.
Angina? Oh, that's a terrible illness.
They say that the rivals are reconciled thanks to the angina, and the word angina was repeated with great satisfaction.
The Count is pathetic, they say. He cried like a child when the doctor told him the case was dangerous.
Oh, it would be a terrible loss. She is an enchanting woman.
You are speaking of poor Countess, said Anna Pavlovna, coming up just then. I sent to ask for news and hear that she is a little better. Oh, she is certainly the most charming woman in the world, she went on with a smile at her own enthusiasm. We belong to different camps, but that does not prevent my esteeming her as she deserves. She is very unfortunate, added Anna Pavlovna.
Supposing that by these words Anna Pavlovna was somewhat lifting the veil from the secret of the Countess's malady, an unwary young man ventured to express surprise that well-known doctors had not been called in, and that the Countess was being attended by a charlatan who might employ dangerous remedies.
Your information may be better than mine, Anna Pavlovna suddenly and venomously retorted on the inexperienced young man, but I know on good authority that this doctor is a very learned and able man. He is private physician to the Queen of Spain.
And having thus demolished the young man, Anna Pavlovna turned to another group where Bilibin was talking about the Austrians. Having wrinkled up his face, he was evidently preparing to smooth it out again and utter one of his mots.
I think it is delightful, he said, referring to a diplomatic note that had been sent to Vienna with some Austrian banners captured from the French by Wittgenstein, the hero of Petropol, as he was then called in Petersburg.
What's that? Asked Anna Pavlovna, securing silence for the mot which she had heard before.
And Bilibin repeated the actual words of the diplomatic dispatch which he had himself composed.
The Emperor returns these Austrian banners, said Bilibin. Friendly banners, gone astray and found on a wrong path. And his brow became smooth again.
Charming. Charming! I don't know, observed Prince Vasily.
The path to Warsaw, perhaps, Prince Hippolyta remarked loudly and unexpectedly. Everybody looked at him, understanding what he meant. Prince Hippolyta himself glanced around with amused surprise. He knew no more than the others what his words meant. During his diplomatic career, he had more than once noticed that such utterances were received as very witty, and at every opportunity he uttered in that way the first words that entered his head. It may turn out very well, he thought, but if not, they'll know how to arrange matters.
And is that where it ends?
Yeah.
And really, during the awkward silence that ensued, that insufficiently patriotic person entered, whom Anna Pavlovna had been waiting for and wished to convert. And she, smiling and shaking a finger at Hippolyta, invited Prince Vasily to the table and, bringing him 2 candles and the manuscript, begged him to begin. Everyone became silent.
Most gracious sovereign and emperor, Prince Vasily sternly declaimed, looking round at his audience as if to inquire whether anyone had anything to say to the contrary. But no one said anything.
Moscow, our ancient capital, the New Jerusalem, receives her Christ. He placed a sudden emphasis on the word. Oh. What? As a mother receives her zealous sons into her arms, and through the gathering mists, foreseeing the brilliant glory of thy rule, sings in exultation, Hosanna, blessed is he that cometh.
Prince Vasily pronounced these last words in a tearful voice.
Oh, should I? Bilibin attentively examined his nails, and many of those present appeared intimidated, as if asking in what they were to blame. Anna Pavlovna whispered the next words in advance, like an old woman muttering a prayer at communion. Let the bold and insolent Goliath, she whispered.
Prince Vasily continued.
Let the bold and insolent Goliath, from the borders of France, encompass the realms of Russia with death-bearing terrors. Humble faith, the sling of the Russian David shall suddenly smite his head in his bloodthirsty pride. This icon of the venerable Sergius, how would you say this?
Venerable Sergius?
Sergius?
Yeah, I think so.
The servant of God and zealous champion of old and our country's weal is offered to your imperial majesty. I grieve that my waning strength prevents rejoicing in the sight of your most gracious presence. I raise fervent prayers to heaven that the Almighty may exalt the race of the just and mercifully fulfill the desires of your majesty.
Force! What a style! Was uttered in approval both of reader and of author.
Animated by that address, Anna Pavlovna's guests talked for a long time of the state of the fatherland, and offered various conjectures as to the result of the battle to be fought in a few days.
You will see, said Anna Pavlovna, that tomorrow, on the emperor's birthday, we shall receive news. I have a favorable presentiment.
I don't even remember what the hell this letter was, but
I don't know.
anyway.
Sounds like they're all really feeling good about the war.
They're feeling it. Anna Pavlovna, I think, in the BBC thing, is played by Gillian Anderson.
Really?
Which seems weird to me. I do like her.
Why does it seem weird to you?
I guess I think of her as being, Anna Pavlovna as being less subtle. And I think of Gillian Anderson as being extremely subtle.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I think she's great.
She is. But maybe I'm wrong about Anna Pavlovna, you know?
Maybe. I'm not giving her enough credit.
Yeah, maybe she's smoother than I imagined. She's also gorgeous.
You never watched, what is it? Sex Ed. Is that what it is? What's it called? She's the mother in that.
I don't know what that is.
It's this British TV show about like a 17-year-old giving sex advice.
I don't think I've even seen it. I mean, scene of it, you know? Okay, chapter 2.
Yeah.
Moving right along. Chapter 2. Anna Pavlovna's presentiment was in fact fulfilled. Next day, during the service at the palace church, in honor of the emperor's birthday, Prince Volkonsky was called out of the church and received a dispatch from Prince Kurzov. What it says?
There's a message retracted. Anyway.
Computer. It was Kurzov's report, written from Tatarinova on the day of the battle, Kutuzov wrote that the Russians had not retreated a step, that the French losses were much heavier than ours, and that he was writing in haste from the field of battle before collecting full information. It followed that there must have been a victory, and at once, without leaving the church, thanks were rendered to the Creator for his help and for the victory.
Anna Pavlovna's presentiment was justified, and all that morning a joyously festive mood reigned in the city. Everyone believed the victory to have been complete, and some even spoke of Napoleon's having been captured, of his deposition, and of the choice of a new ruler for France.
It is very difficult for events to be reflected in their real strength and completeness amid the conditions of court life and far from the scene of action. General events involuntarily group themselves around some particular incident. So now, the courtiers' pleasure was based as much on the fact that the news had arrived on the emperor's birthday as on the fact of the victory itself. It was like a successfully arranged surprise. Mention was made in Kutuzov's report of the Russian losses, among which figured the names of Tuchkov, Bagration,
Oh.
and Kutezov. Not to be confused with Kutuzov. In the Petersburg world, this sad side of the affair again involuntarily centered around a single incident, Kutezov's death. Everybody knew him. The emperor liked him, and he was young and interesting. That day, everyone met with the words,
What a wonderful coincidence, just during the service. But what a loss Kutezov is. How sorry I am.
"What did I tell about Kutezov?" Prince
No,
Vasily.
that's Kutuzov, right? That's really funny.
I've already screwed up.
Oh, shoot.
"What did I tell about Kutuzov?" Prince Vasily now said with a prophet's pride. "I always said he was the only man capable of defeating Napoleon."
But next day, no news arrived from the army, and the public mood grew anxious. The courtiers suffered because of the suffering the suspense occasioned the emperor.
"Fancy the emperor's position," they said, and instead of extolling Kutuzov as they had done the day before, they condemned him as the cause of the emperor's anxiety. That day, Prince Vasily no longer boasted of his protege Kutuzov, but remained silent when the commander-in-chief was mentioned. Moreover, toward evening, as if everything conspired to make Petersburg society anxious and uneasy, a terrible piece of news was added. Count Helena Bezhukova had suddenly died of that terrible malady it had been so agreeable to mention.
But we liked the malady so much.
It seemed really appropriate to talk about. That's really funny. Officially, at large gatherings, everyone said that Countess Bezhukova had died of a terrible attack of angina pectoris, but in intimate circles, details were mentioned of how the private physician of the Queen of Spain had prescribed small doses of a certain drug to produce a certain effect. But Helena, tortured by the fact that the old count suspected her and that her husband, to whom she'd written, that wretched profligate Pierre, had not replied, had suddenly taken a very large dose of the drug and had died in agony before assistance could be rendered her. It was said that Prince Vasily and the old count had turned upon the Italian, but the latter had produced such letters from the unfortunate deceased that they had immediately let the matter drop.
Talk in general centered around three melancholy facts: the emperor's lack of news, the loss of Kutuzov.
What?
The loss of Kutuzov?
They have to mean Kutuzov.
Oh my god.
They have to mean that.
Maybe it's just like that he lost.
But they don't know that yet.
I don't know. And the death of
What was
Helena.
that?
The thud outside?
Oh, the giant boom that's on Book of Firewood.
Oh, I don't know.
Cool. Okay. On the third day, after Kutuzov's report, a country gentleman arrived from Moscow, and news of the surrender of Moscow to the French spread through the whole town. This was terrible. What a position for the emperor to be in! Kutuzov was a traitor, and Prince Vasily, during the visits of condolences paid to him on the occasion of his daughter's death, said of Kutuzov, whom he had formerly praised, it was excusable for him in his grief to forget what he had said, that it was impossible to expect anything else from a blind and depraved old man. Jeez, what a DICK.
Seriously. I forgot that Helena was his daughter again.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
I actually remembered they were related this time.
Oh,
I was
really?
like,
They're
connected, but I can't remember how.
Okay. I only wonder that the fate of Russia could have been entrusted to such a man.
As long as this news remained unofficial, it was possible to doubt it. But the next day, the following communication was received from Count Rostopchin.
Prince Kutuzov's adjutant has brought me a letter in which he demands police officers to guide the army to the Ryazan road. He writes that he is regretfully abandoning Moscow. Sire, Kutuzov's action decides the fate of the capital and of your empire. Russia will shudder to learn of the abandonment of the city in which her greatness is centered and in which lie the ashes of your ancestors. I shall follow the army. I have had everything removed, and it only remains for me to weep over the fate of my fatherland.
On receiving this dispatch, the emperor sent Prince Volkonsky to Kutuzov with the following rescript.
Prince Michael Ilyarovich.
Whoever that is.
Right.
I'm assuming that's Kutuzov, but how weird.
Guess that's his name. I guess he's a prince too. Huh.
What is that?
Yeah, okay. Since the 29th of August, I have received no communication from you. Yet, on the 1st of September, I received from the commander-in-chief of Moscow, via Yaroslavl, the sad news that you, with the army, have decided to abandon Moscow. You can yourself imagine the effect this news has had on me, and your silence increases my astonishment. I am sending this by Adjutant General Prince Volkonsky to hear from you the situation of the army and the reasons that have induced you to take this melancholy decision.
Chapter 3.
I wouldn't say it's a melancholy decision.
They're Russian.
Oh. I don't think he's just like, I'm moody, so I will give up Moscow.
I think maybe melancholy must have followed it.
Right. Yes. It has that effect.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
that is about that.
Yeah.
Chapter 3. 9 days after the abandonment of Moscow, a messenger from Kutuzov reached Petersburg with the official announcement of that event. This messenger was Michaud, a Frenchman who did not know Russian, but who was, how the hell?
Quaka.
Quaka?
Yeah.
What is that?
Quaka.
Quaka.
Quaka
étranger, russe de cœur et d'âme, as he said of himself.
Yeah, it means like it's though. So like, though is stranger. What is it? Russian in heart and soul.
His heart is Russian.
Okay, Michaud. The emperor at once received this messenger in his study at the palace on Stone Island. Cool. Does he have a
Fire Island?
Seriously. Michaud, who had never seen Moscow before the campaign and who did not know Russian. How is he Russian in his heart, but he doesn't speak any Russian? Anyway.
Or nor has he been to Moscow.
Right!
He's about as Russian as I am.
He's so Russian. Yet felt deeply moved as he wrote. When he appeared before Notre très gracieux souverain, our very gracious sovereign, with the news of the burning of Moscow, dont les flammes éclairaient sa route. The flames brighten her road, his route.
Cool. Though the source of Monsieur Michaud's chagrin must have been different from that which caused Russians to grieve, he had such a sad face when shown into the emperor's study that the latter at once asked,
"Have you brought me sad news, Colonel?"
"Very sad, sire," replied Michaud, lowering his eyes with a sigh. "The abandonment of Moscow."
"They surrendered my ancient capital without a battle?" asked the emperor quickly, his face suddenly flushing.
Michaud respectfully delivered the message Kutuzov had entrusted to him, which was that it had been impossible to fight before Moscow, and that as the only remaining choice was between losing the army as well as Moscow or losing Moscow alone, the field marshal had to choose the latter.
The emperor listened in silence, not looking at Michaud.
"Has the enemy entered the city?" he asked.
Yes, sire, and Moscow is now in ashes. I left it all in flames, replied Michaud in a decided tone. But glancing at the emperor, he was frightened by what he had done.
The emperor began to breathe heavily and rapidly. His lower lip trembled, and tears instantly appeared in his fine blue eyes.
But this lasted only a moment. He suddenly frowned, as if blaming himself for his weakness, and raising his head, addressed Michaud in a firm voice.
I see, Colonel, from all that is happening, that Providence requires great sacrifices of us. I am ready to submit myself in all things to his will, but tell me, Michaud, how did you leave the army when it saw my ancient capital abandoned without a battle? Did you not notice discouragement?
Seeing that his most gracious ruler was calm once more, Michaud also grew calm, but was not immediately ready to reply to the emperor's direct and relevant questions, which required a direct answer.
Sire, will you allow me to speak frankly as befits a loyal soldier who might be French? He asked to gain time.
Uh,
You spire!
oh, I really want to use that in every day.
I've used it at least 3 times since.
Have you?
No, here.
Oh, damn it! Colonel, I always require it, replied the emperor. Conceal nothing from me. I wish to know absolutely how things are.
Sire, said Michaud with a subtle, scarcely perceptible smile on his lips, having now prepared a well-phrased reply. Sire, I left the whole army from its chiefs to the lowest soldier, without exception, in desperate and agonized terror.
He is a spire. Wait, didn't you say that he's never been to Moscow?
Yeah.
So, has he been to Moscow?
Yeah, just this time. It's his first time.
Just this time? Okay,
It's his first time.
fine. I don't trust you, Michaud. How is that? The emperor interrupted him, frowning sternly. Would misfortune make my Russians lose heart? Never.
Michaud had only waited for this to bring out the phrase he had prepared.
It's like crafty. Why is he preparing words?
I don't know, but he should have thought of this on the road from Moscow. Because I
Probably.
feel like he would have had time to think about it.
Probably. Sire, he said with respectful playfulness, they are only afraid lest your majesty, in the goodness of your heart, should allow yourself to be persuaded to make peace. They are burning for the combat, declared this representative of the Russian nation, and to prove to your majesty by the sacrifice of their lives how devoted they are.
Way to bury the fucking lead. He was like, they're terrified of you being terrified.
Of how great Russia is.
Yeah, it's literally like the opposite.
Yeah.
Ah, said the emperor, reassured, and with a kindly gleam in his eyes, he patted Michaud on the shoulder. You set me at ease, Colonel.
Oh my god. He bent his head and was silent for some time.
Well, then, go back to the army, he said, drawing himself up to his full height and addressing Michaud with a gracious and majestic gesture. And tell our brave men and all my good subjects, wherever you go, that when I have not a soldier left, I shall put myself at the head of my beloved nobility and my good peasants, and so use the last resources of my empire. It still offers me more than my enemies suppose, said the emperor, growing more and more animated. But should it ever be ordained by divine providence, he continued, raising to heaven his fine eyes, shining with emotion, that my dynasty should cease to reign on the throne of my ancestors, then after exhausting all the means at my command, I shall let my beard grow to here. He pointed halfway down his chest. And go and eat potatoes with the meanest of my peasants rather than sign the disgrace of my country and of my beloved people whose sacrifices I know how to appreciate. He'll eat potatoes.
Wow, what a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sacrifice. It sounds great. This sounds like every person's dream. You get to grow your beard out and eat potatoes.
Grow a beard out and eat potatoes, cobs, and beard.
Having uttered these words in an agitated voice, the emperor suddenly turned away.
Agitated?
What?
Like an adjutant?
He was agitated.
No, it's agitated. Just kidding.
The emperor suddenly turned away, as if to hide from Michaud the tears that rose to his eyes, and went to the further end of his study. Having stood there a few moments, he strode back to Michaud and pressed his arm below the elbow with a vigorous movement. What?
Oh!
The emperor's mild and handsome face was flushed, and his eyes gleamed with resolution and anger.
Colonel Michaud, do not forget what I say to you here. Perhaps we may recall it with pleasure someday. Napoleon or I, said the emperor, touching his breast. We can no longer both reign together. I have learned to know him, and he will not deceive me anymore.
The emperor paused with a frown.
When he heard these words and saw the expression of firm resolution in the emperor's eyes, Michaud, quoique étranger, rousse de cœur et d'âme, at that solemn moment felt himself enraptured by all that he had heard, as he used afterwards to say, and gave expression to his own feelings and those of the Russian people, whose representative he considered himself to be, in the following words.
Sire, said he, your majesty is at this moment signing the glory of the nation and the salvation of Europe.
With an inclination of the head, the emperor dismissed him. Which is an incline?
Hmm?
Is this an incline or is this an incline?
Any which way? Do you think it was that?
Like a side backslash or a forward slash?
Or a side slash? I thought it was a side.
I could see it being like, I don't think his neck needs to break over, but I could see it being like that.
Yeah,
or
it
I
could be
could see
that.
it being like that.
Yeah.
This is a bit more douchey.
Don't you wish you were like an actor? Who,
Yeah.
Who was in the position to be like, I was thinking I would do it like, what do you think? Or do you like it more like just taking up everyone's time with a 30-minute conversation on which
I do.
the angle at which to put the incline.
I do. I do wish. I once found myself mid-monologue it was in an elevator in rehearsal. It was a theater thing, so it wasn't like on set. But I was like talking my thoughts out to the director, and I was like, why am I telling you any of this? Sometimes in theater rehearsals, I don't know how much to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's like an encouragement for that.
I mean, that's what you're there doing.
Yeah. You're supposed to talk about the text and like iron out all the.
Yeah, you're like rehearsing it.
Yeah.
But then it's this weird, yeah.
But should you just, like run like all of your thoughts out loud?
I do that a lot because that's how I process.
Right.
But not on set.
I just think it'd be so great to be really difficult.
There's nothing stopping you from being difficult.
I told you right about that story of what's her name? I need to verify if this is true. She's in like Good Will Hunting.
Source unknown.
Uh-huh.
The main lady in Good Will Hunting.
Skylar, yeah.
Minnie Driver.
Minnie Driver, thank you. Okay, so I heard the story. I don't know if it's true.
Oh my.
That like she was on set for something, and they were supposed to be in a submarine. I don't know if this is true. And she was like, I don't believe this is a submarine. I'm not in it. I'm not buying this. I don't believe it's a submarine. This isn't working for me. And so the crew dressed up like sea creatures.
No, there's no fucking way. I feel like you've told me this before.
I don't know.
There's no way.
I don't know. Yeah. The crew had to like dress up like octopuses and sea cucumbers and like so they're like holding the booms and like
no they didn't. There's no freaking way this is true.
I don't know
because there wouldn't be sea creatures in a submarine in any case.
No, like through the window.
What window?
I don't know. Apparently there was like a scene that she had to like be looking out the window and there was nothing to look at. So they're like, okay, give her something to look at.
How could she have a job? How could you have a job if you can't look out a window? That's like almost literally the job is to look out a window that's
kind
not
of,
looking out on anything.
Yeah, kind of. And also, why would this be better than looking at nothing?
Exactly. It's ludicrous. It's like so much more distracting and confusing. Aaron just asked me what we were doing, and I said, take a guess. And he said, not broadcasting, yoga?
Mhm.
Would you call this broadcasting?
Yes.
Cool.
Broadcasting.
What does he think we do at 8:45 p.m.?
Where else will we be?
Quarantine
Actually,
p.m.
we've pretty much been here every day at 8:45 for the last.
Yeah, for the last nearing 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
He's saying the YouTube channel doesn't show it. How is that possible? Is this like when he had a fan behind his head?
it says we're live.
Should I say plug it in? Plug it in.
What?
Press the power button. Okay.
Do you want to keep reading?
He's saying it wasn't listed on your channel page like usual. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Okay.
Shit.
What?
Oh well. I make mistakes. I'm on the wrong channel. Ugh. Oh well.
Oh, this is what is this?
This is my channel. I'll have to move it.
Can we figure out how to put them in order?
All of
The ones that are moved.
Yeah. I think it's like it's ordered in terms of when it's posted. You know?
Okay.
Yes, I'll look into it. So like because I had to like
Yeah.
steal some and put it, that's why they come up later, I think.
I assumed that was why, but it would be good to have the first one.
Definitely. It would be nice to have them all organized.
Okay. 4
Yeah, do you want to just keep going?
as opposed to?
No, we should just keep going, right? And then I can move it.
As opposed to what?
Like ending and switching the channel.
Yeah. I don't think we should do that.
Okay. You can order them in the playlist. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erin.
Chapter 4. It is natural for us who were not living in those days to imagine that when half Russia had been conquered and the inhabitants were fleeing to distant provinces, and one levy after another was being raised for the defense of the fatherland, all Russians from the greatest to the least were solely engaged in sacrificing themselves, saving the fatherland, or weeping over its downfall. The tales and descriptions of that time, without exception, speak only of the self-sacrifice, patriotic devotion, despair, grief, and the heroism of the Russians. But it was not really so. It appears so to us because we see only the general historic interest of that time and do not see all the personal human interests that people had. Yet, in reality, those personal interests of the moment so much transcend the general interests that they always prevent the public interest from being felt or even noticed. It's not really true. Most of the people at that time paid no attention to the general progress of events, but were guided only by their private interests, and they were the very people whose activities at that period were most useful.
Those who tried to understand the general course of events and to take part in it by self-sacrifice and heroism were the most useless members of society.
Thank you.
They saw
I never
everything.
try to understand anything.
They saw everything upside down, and all they did for the common good, turned out to be useless and foolish, like Pierre's and Mamenov's regiments, which looted Russian villages, and the lint the young ladies prepared and that never reached the wounded, and so on. even those fond of intellectual talk and of expressing their feelings who discussed Russia's position at the time involuntarily introduced into their conversation either a shade of pretense and falsehood or useless condemnation and anger directed against people accused of actions no one could possibly be guilty of. In historic events, the rule forbidding us to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge is specially applicable. Only unconscious action bears fruit, and he who plays a part in an historic event never understands its significance. If he tries to realize it, his efforts are fruitless.
Agree to disagree.
Hmm.
The more closely a man was engaged in the events then taking place in Russia, the less did he realize their significance. Okay, I feel like I should just shut up, but that seems like, how is that possible? The more someone is engaged in the events, the less they realize their significance. So the people who are oblivious and just like going to pick up their dry cleaning were the ones who most realized the significance of what was going on.
Maybe it's like if you're too close to something, you can't really see it.
I feel like you should say that then.
Yeah, as opposed to all of us. I don't know if that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can really think of.
In Petersburg and in the provinces at a distance from Moscow, ladies and gentlemen in militia uniforms wept for Russia and its ancient capital and talked of self-sacrifice and so on. But in the army, which retired, beyond Moscow, there was little talk or thought of Moscow, and when they caught sight of its burned ruins, no one swore to be avenged on the French, but they thought about their next pay, their next quarters, of Matreshka, the vivandière, and like matters.
As the war had caught him in the service, Nicholas Rostov, oh right, him.
I think that's kind of unfair, that assessment.
Yeah.
I do. Because people sometimes say this about the like kids who went and enlist and like joined the army right after 9/11. At least people that I know or whatever who were in New York are like get all like have really mixed feelings about that, because it's like you weren't there, but you feel like you need to respond. Like the idea being that the people who experienced it would know how best to respond to it rather than people who didn't directly experience it. But actually that was what happened, was sort of this, that people outside of Moscow, which is what he's kind of saying, are like weeping and beating their breasts, but then the people in Moscow or in the army or whatever are like, And I don't think that that's a fair, or rather, I think that the cause and effect that he's talking about might actually be all inverted. I guess he's not, like there are other reasons to behave a certain way rather than they don't realize the significance.
Don't realize the significance. I mean, what also comes to mind is like the people in Moscow are having to deal with it.
Right. Which is one reason that you might like pick up and just like keep it moving.
Yeah. Like you're not understanding. Right, exactly. You're just having to survive it. You're not thinking of it from like with perspective because it's not at a distance from you yet. Like you're still dealing with the effect of it.
There are more immediate implications.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It feels, and maybe I'm just putting this on it, it feels like he's saying that is like almost small-minded of people to have their personal significances like come first. But maybe I'm reading that into it.
Yeah, maybe it's not making that judgment, and
Right.
it's just like that's how human beings are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it also makes me think of like I forget who was this person. Source unknown. But when Hitler was rising to power, it was actually the people that met him. This feels related to me. It was the people that met him that didn't see him as a threat, as the threat that he was. Whereas people from a distance were able to like really see what was going on. And then when they met him in person, they were clouded by like their own experience with him.
There is judgment, though. He's saying the most useless members of society.
Mm.
But there's judgment in his. I think there's judgment in his
Mhm.
language. Anyway,
Yeah.
where were we? Fruitless.
Um,
The less he did realize their significance. No,
no, I think
two
we're at the
pages back.
next. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
as the war.
As the war had caught him in the service, Nicholas Rostov took a close and prolonged part in the defense of his country, but did so casually without any aim at self sacrifice. And he therefore looked at what was going on in Russia without despair and without dismally racking his brains over it. Had he been asked what he thought of the state of Russia, he would have said that it was not his business to think about it, that Kutuzov and others were there for that purpose, but that he had heard that the regiments were to be made up to their full strength, that fighting would probably go on for a long time yet, and that things being so, it was quite likely he might be in command of a regiment in a couple of years' time.
As he looked at the matter in this way, he learned that he was being sent to Voronezh to buy remounts for his division. Not only without regret at being prevented from taking part in the coming battle, but with the greatest pleasure, which he did not conceal and which his comrades fully understood.
A few days before the Battle of Borodino, Nicholas received the necessary money and warrants, and having sent some hussars on in advance, he sent out with post horses for Voronezh.
Only a man who has experienced it, that is, has passed some months continuously in an atmosphere of campaigning in war, can understand the delight Nicholas felt when he escaped from the region covered by the army's foraging operations, provision trains, and hospitals. When, free from soldiers, wagons, and the filthy traces of a camp, he saw villages with peasants and peasant women, gentlemen's country houses, fields where cattle were grazing, post houses with station masters asleep in them, he rejoiced as though seeing all this for the first time, as he sees everything. Always. What for a long while specially surprised and delighted him were the women, young and healthy, without a dozen officers making up to each of them. Women, too, who were pleased and flattered that a passing officer should joke with them.
In the highest spirits, Nicholas arrived at night at a hotel in Voronezh, ordered things he had long been deprived of in camp, and next day, very clean shaven and in a full dress uniform he had not worn for a long time, went to present himself to the authorities.
The commander of the militia was a civilian general, an old man who was evidently pleased with his military designation and rank. He received Nicholas brusquely, imagining this to be characteristically military, and questioned him with an important air, as if considering the general progress of affairs and approving and disapproving with full right to do so. Nicholas was in such good spirits that this merely amused him.
From the commander of the militia, he drove to the governor. The governor was a brisk little man, very simple and affable. He indicated the stud farms at which Nicholas might procure horses, recommended to him a horse dealer in the town, and a landowner 15 miles out of town who had the best horses and promised to assist him in every way.
You are Count Ilya Rostov's son. My wife was a great friend of your mother's. We are at home on Thursdays. Today is Thursday, so please come and see us quite informally, said the governor, taking leave of him.
Immediately on leaving the governor's, Nicholas hired post horses and, taking a squadron quartermaster with him, drove at a gallop to the landowner, 14 miles away, who had the stud. Everything seemed to him pleasant and easy during that first part of his stay in Voronezh, and as usually happens when a man is in a pleasant state of mind, everything went well and easily.
The landowner to whom Nicholas went was a bachelor, an old cavalryman, a horse fancier, a sportsman, the possessor of some century-old brandy and some old Hungarian wine, who had a snuggery where he smoked and who owned some splendid horses.
In very,
What is a snuggery?
I don't know, but I like it.
A cozy or comfortable place, especially someone's private room or den.
Oh, I want a snuggery.
That is a great word.
Ugh.
To the snuggery with you.
In very few words, Nicholas bought 17 pig stallions for 6,000 rubles to serve, as he said, as samples of his remounts. After dining and taking rather too much of the Hungarian wine, Nicholas, having exchanged kisses with the landowner, with whom he was already on the friendliest of terms, gallops back over abominable roads in the brightest frame of mind, continually urging on the driver so as to be in time for the governor's party.
When he had changed, poured water over his head, and scented himself. I guess that's what passes for bathing. Pour water, stint.
Yeah, that's how I shower.
Cool. Then Nicholas must smell like roses just like you.
Yeah, I do. Okay.
Okay.
I just splashed water on my face, really.
I'm sure I've told you this, but it always kills me. My sister's husband used to wash his face like basically without bending over. So he'd be like, and anytime she went to the bathroom afterwards, it was like covered in water.
Like in the commercials, that's how you're supposed to watch it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People in the commercials are like, you're like, where are you that you can do this?
Seriously.
In very few words, Nicholas bought, is that where we are? Yeah.
Yeah.
Bought 17 picked stallions for 6,000 rubles.
we were
Sorry,
at-
does he have a lot of money?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, we were at poured water.
Yeah.
What is he doing spending money?
I don't know. He's still getting his allowance.
But he's supposed to pay it back to his parents.
You remember though how he was like, yes, I'll pay back my parents with some of their money.
Right, so he needs to be giving his allowance back to them continuously.
Not buying horses.
Right.
Ah!
He's hopeless. Poured water over his head. Is he going to talk about Mary, you think, anytime soon?
Who?
His girlfriend.
I know.
Oh, really? I was like, I forgot.
No, I thought for a second you were talking about Sonia, and then I was like, yeah, of course he's not talking about her.
Because she's Sonia.
Because, I don't know if he's like in love with Mary.
Well, you know what's really weird is that you've talked about like having feelings for two people. One of them is Sonia and the other is Mary.
Oh yeah.
So like,
See a similarity? A similarity?
not that much.
No?
I mean, they're both very self-sacrificing.
Yeah.
That's it. So who would you play in this? Mary, Sonia, Mary, Sonia, Mary, Sonia, Sonia, Mary, Mary, Sonia.
Like if I got to choose, or
Mary
who would have-
season, Sonia season, Mary season, Sonia season.
I think I'd rather play Sonia.
Why? Because?
I get to wear a mustache. Dream.
Because I got to go for a sleigh ride.
Actually, that would be nice. In the Russian winter. Do you think they filmed in Russia? Probably not.
No.
Ugh.
Nicholas arrived at the governor's rather late, but with the phrase "better late than never" on his lips.
Oh, what a good one. It was not a ball, nor had dancing been announced, but everyone knew that Catherine Petrovna would play valses. Ooh! And the echo says on the clavichord, and that there would be dancing, and so everyone had come as to a ball.
The echo says.
Mhm.
Remember that?
Yeah, I
It's
saw.
a dance danced by one of the greatest dancers in all of Russia,
Andrew.
Andrew or Dennis. Provincial life in 1812 went on very much as usual. I thought they were beating their breath. Whatever. But with this difference that it was livelier in the towns in consequence of the arrival of many wealthy families from Moscow. And as in everything that went on in Russia at that time, a special recklessness was noticeable. An in for the penny, in for a penny, in for a pound. Who cares spirit? And the inevitable small talk, instead of turning on the weather and mutual acquaintances, now turned on Moscow, the army, and Napoleon.
The society gathered together at the governor's was the best in Voronezh.
That's it?
Yep.
There were a great many ladies and some of Nicholas's Moscow acquaintances, but there were no men who could at all vie with the Cavalier of St. George, the Hussar remount officer. What the hell sentence am I reading?
I don't know. There were a great many ladies and some of Nick's. No. Who could
No
vie
men who
with
could
the
at all vie with the
Cavalier.
Cavalier of St. George, the Hussar remount officer, the good-natured and well-bred Count Rostov. No one could vie with him. Okay,
Yeah.
end of story.
Yeah.
Among the men was an Italian prisoner, an officer of the French army, and Nicholas felt that the presence of that prisoner enhanced his own importance as a Russian hero. The Italian was, as it were, a war trophy. Nicholas felt this. It seemed to him that everyone regarded the Italian in the same light, and he treated him cordially, though with dignity and restraint.
As soon as Nicholas entered in his hussar uniform, diffusing around him a fragrance of perfume and wine,
Oh, Lord.
and had uttered the words, "Better late than never."
What is he doing? He's
I
like,
don't know.
better late than never, am I right, guys? And then he goes like 2 steps and is like, hey, guys, better late than never.
Definitely. And heard them repeated several times by others. People clustered around him. They're like, I don't know what they're doing.
I don't either.
People clustered around him. All eyes turned on him, and he felt at once that he had entered into his proper position in the province, that of a universal favorite. A very pleasant position, and intoxicatingly so after his long privations. At posting stations, at inns, and in the landowner's snuggery, maidservants had been flattered by his notice. And here, too, at the governor's party, there were, as it seemed to Nicholas, an inexhaustible number of pretty young women, married and unmarried, impatiently awaiting his notice. The women and girls flirted with him, and from the first day, the people concerned themselves to get this fine young daredevil of an Azar married and settled down. Among these was the governor's wife herself, who welcomed Rostov as a near relative and called him Nicholas.
Catherine Petrovna did actually play valses, and the echo says, and dancing began, in which Nicholas still further captivated the provincial society by his agility. Okay, now he's a great dancer.
Yeah.
His particularly free manner of dancing even surprised them all.
It's just like he's a really bad
He's
dancer.
like,
So free.
his particularly free manner of dancing even surprised them all. Nicholas was himself rather surprised at the way he danced that evening. He had danced like that in Moscow, and would even have considered such a very free and easy manner improper and in bad form. But here he felt it incumbent on him to astonish them all by something unusual, something they would have to accept as the regular thing in the capital, though new to them in the provinces. Yeah, he basically danced like Julian Assange. I swear.
Great. All the evening, Nicholas paid attention to a blue-eyed, plump, and pleasing little blonde, the wife of one of the provincial officials.
I'm so bored of his romantic.
She's married.
So?
Doesn't that matter?
Does it? Is that it?
I can keep with the naive conviction of young men in a merry mood that other men's wives were created for them. Rostov did not leave the lady's side and treated her husband in a friendly and conspiratorial style, as if, without speaking of it, they knew how capitally Nicholas and the lady would get on together. The husband, however, did not seem to share that conviction and tried to behave morosely with Rostov. But it's still the same. But
Yeah.
the latter's good-natured naivete was so boundless that sometimes even he involuntarily yielded to Nicholas's good humor. Toward the end of the evening, however, as the wife's face grew more flushed and animated, the husband became more and more melancholy and solemn, as though there were but a given amount of animation between them, and as the wife's share increased, the husband's diminished. Why does some guy be like, oh my goodness, we're great, we're such a great couple? Yeah.
I can't actually. Some people are very presumptuous.
Right.
And they're kind of daring the people in the situation to. It's a pissing contest. I remember one time, I think only one time has this ever happened, that I was like involved with someone in a relationship with them, and we hung out with a friend of mine who was wildly inappropriate from a boundaries perspective. It wasn't necessarily like suggestive at all. It was just like it was like peeing on territory.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like a bit weird, but it wasn't until afterwards when the person that I was like in a relationship with like lost his mind. Just to me later, not in front of him.
Yeah.
And I realized that it had been like pent up. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I could see how that would be like an invasion of. But it was like just below the radar.
Yeah.
Like nothing that you can call out directly. And so there's a way of, I think, pushing people's.
Especially if you're like if you're what's the right adjective? Like good humored about it. You're kind of sly and like funny about it. Yeah.
There's also like this line in so many human interactions, I feel like, of plausible deniability that people a lot of times like go right up to, but then they don't cross it. So that if you then say something, they can be like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And there will be almost no way for you to put your finger on it.
Right.
Because nothing was actually inappropriate, but everything feels or smells inappropriate. But then they are able to be like, I never said that. Or like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
That I feel like is a recurring thing. So I feel like people who push those boundaries are counting on the discomfort of the other person in like surface, not only surfacing a conflict, which is always a thing to do, but to also like not have any concrete proof.
Yeah. Right.
It's freaking BS. It's gaslighting a bit.
It is. Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Must be great on a different level. Like to have that ability to do that. For some reason, it makes me think of there's this character in this book called like in the garden, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. And there's this character who's like just out borrowing money from everyone constantly. Is like always getting up to like nonsense and no good.
Yeah.
But his manner with people is so charming and likable that no one ever faults him for it. Like everyone just likes him so much, even though he's like incredibly in debt, and like the police, he like gets sued countless times.
Wow.
And it's just borrowing money, laundering money, doing whatever. But he's just like such a good guy.
I've told you about this before. I don't think you ever actually watched it. I don't know why I'm even thinking of this. But remember I told you that Kevin Spacey released this extremely weird video?
Yeah, you did.
I want to watch it. Should we watch it? Because I think this would actually be worth watching. Your face.
Oh God. Okay.
So this was like after he got fired.
Right.
You remember this?
I remember you telling me about this.
Right. So it was after he got fired, and like everyone was. It's called "Let Me Be Frank," which, in case you haven't seen.
The character's name.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
You have seen the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I watched like the first 3 seasons.
I know what you want. Oh, sure, they may have tried to separate us, but what we have is too strong, it's too powerful. And after all, we shared everything, you and I told you my deepest, darkest secrets. I showed you exactly what people are capable of. I shocked you with my honesty, but mostly I challenged you and made you think. And you trusted me, even though you knew you shouldn't. So we're not done, no matter what anyone says. And besides, I know what you want. You want me back. Of course, some believed everything and have just been waiting with bated breath to hear me confess it all. They're just dying to have me declare that everything says true and that I got what I deserve.
No. Buffering. How creepy is this?
So creepy.
Like, yo!
And he released this right afterward.
And he's like, no one wrote this for him.
Right. He
Like, he's doing this.
wrote this monologue.
But
And
that
he's like,
easy.
yes, I will wear a Santa
It was all
apron.
so simple. Only you and I both know it's never that simple, not in politics and not in life. But you wouldn't believe the worst without evidence, would you? You wouldn't rush to judgments without facts, would you? Did you? No, not you. You're smarter than that. Anyway, all this presumption made for such an unsatisfying ending. And to think it could have been such a memorable send-off. I mean, if you and I have learned nothing else these past years, it's that in life and art, nothing should be off the table. We weren't afraid, not of what we said, not of what we did, and we're still not afraid. Because I can promise you this. If I didn't pay the price for the things we both know I did do, I'm certainly not going to pay the price for the things I didn't do. Well, of course, they're going to say I'm being disrespectful, not playing by the rules, like I ever played by anyone's rules before. I never did. And you loved it. Anyhow, despite all the poppycock, the animosity, the headlines, the impeachment without a trial, despite everything, despite even my own death, I feel surprisingly good. And my confidence grows each day that soon enough you will know the full truth. Wait a minute. Now that I think of it, you never actually saw me die, did you? Conclusions can be so deceiving. It's me.
What? I don't know. I don't know what he's trying to say. Yeah, I miss you.
Such. Yeah, I'm not suggesting it's the most clear thing, but several points that do get made are
Yeah.
truly like maniacal.
Yeah.
Like they're just like criminal.
I don't know if he's trying to say that, like, yeah, I did do all the things, and that's what you like about me.
That's partly what he's saying. Which is fucking demented.
Right?
Yeah. But he's like, also, but I didn't.
He's like, but I didn't, and there's no proof. And oh, you believed everyone, but also, you always loved me for breaking the rules.
And we know in art and in life there are no rules.
Yeah, there's no rules.
It's like one of the strangest things I think I've ever seen. Like I watched it and was like, what did I just watch? Like I really don't know what that was. I don't know what is
I don't know. I think he broke.
yeah.
Like I'm just thinking
Deep
of
creep.
like his. I think he had a Pierre moment
What
where he
Pierre?
was like 666. I think all of that happened, he's like,
But then he like put on makeup
yeah,
and figured out the set
He's like,
and learned his
he's like,
lines.
well, some like a lawyer would sue. I'm an actor, so I will monologue.
But then, like, don't you think you should have a coherent?
I think you should.
So, like, what was he even saying?
That's just it. It seemed to be that he was arguing for both sides.
And he was like, and I'm not.
He's like, there's nothing to prove that I did do it. But if I did do it, that's what you like about me.
Yeah, that's basically, it's Trumpian, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole thing of like, you never seen me dead. I don't know, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. Okay, I was hoping you understood that.
I don't understand a lot about what just happened.
Okay.
Like, it's to me, it's equal parts disturbing and maybe not equal parts, but the ratio of disturbing to confusing is
Yeah,
3 to 1.
understandably.
Yeah. Who thinks that's a good idea? Like, who told him that was a good idea? What immoral person shot that video and was like, ready, action?
Right?
I
It's like, yeah, I think that's good. I think we got it.
like that one.
Do you think you did a few takes?
Yes. Yes, I do.
And who like added in the music at the end?
I don't know what if that music was part of his video
Oh, okay.
or part of someone being like, how weird is this? Dude, people love Mother's Day posts.
Oh my goodness. I saw yours. It's so cute.
Did you like it?
Maybe I didn't. and I
You like it for a minute?
I'm
just obviously.
I haven't posted about my mom
Yeah.
yet.
I do like seeing everyone's mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cute. It's nice seeing who made this person. Oh, it's that one. Yeah. I did talk to my mom today.
Ray texted me in the morning being like, hey, can you please tell your mother Happy Mother's Day for me? I was like, I haven't told her yet. So I sent her a message being like, Happy Mother's Day from me and Ray. Oh my god, I found the funniest pictures of him on his mother's Instagram. Which I feel like I have to show you, but nobody else is going to be interested in them. So, we'll just move right along.
Okay.
All right,
I'm
guys.
looking for your post.
Why?
Oh, so I can like it.
You need to
Quickly like it.
I like being really intense about this for some reason. It's really funny.
Why can't, you could just search this shit.
Yeah, you could. Like, what are you doing? Don't actually.
Quickly.
Did you do it?
Ugh. That's gonna haunt me.
She liked it.
It's quite a face you make there.
I know. I've kept it. I've hidden this picture, and then I was like, what the hell?
What the heck?
It's true. Guess what we were looking at?
Someone small and unassuming with a very bad sense of humor.
I only make that face for like to him. He sometimes by accident takes FaceTime pictures of me because he's just like messing with the phone or whatever, and they are always humiliating. They're the fucking worst. Because I'm always like, just horrible. It's just horrible.
Great. Did you do anything for your sister too?
Edited it.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I did last year, but I mean, in part because of the delivery delays and stuff, I'm just a little bit like, I did send them that thing, and I said that it was for Mother's Day for both
Oh.
of them.
Yeah, okay.
But that was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Mother's Day, Mama. Okay, go celebrate your mom if you haven't already. I gotta post some shit. I don't know.
The stakes are pretty high.
Oh.
Joanne's waiting.
Actually, it's too late
She's
already.
like East Coast time.
East Coast, I already missed it. Ugh. Shame.
Shame.
Bye.
Shame. Shame.